Thank you for joining us here. Our 4 versus 5 matchup. The team of Jody Keith, Collins Mullen, and Todd Stevens face off here against Tyler Lutes, Ben Stewart, and Richard Nixon. We're going to be starting on our standard match. We've been watching a lot of standard this weekend as Guilds of Ravnica has just come out, and it's really reshaped the metagame.
Oh, absolutely.
Starting off, Legion's Landing on Todd Stevens' side.
Yeah, that's a card that really went away in the format, and that had a big thing to do with 4 Goblin Chain Whirlers being very popular, though that's definitely one that's still showing up in the format.
Yeah, Richard's deck is actually a different mono red deck than most of the ones we've been seeing. He's playing Flame of Keld and being as low to the ground as possible. There's not Experimental Frenzy. And he actually has picked up a new Goblin. This is Goblin Banneret. It's the Boros 1-drop. It attacks in for 1.
Yeah, 1 power creature with Mentor, which is a little bit of an awkward juxtaposition, but it has the ability for 2 mana to get +2/+0 until end of turn.
Yeah, yep. The Goblin needs some help if it's going to teach other attackers.
Right. And this is a hard card for the red deck to fight through. History of Banality on turn 3 for Todd Stevens.
Yeah, big play here for Todd as he gets his first of 2 Night tokens. Richard's going to attack in, perhaps offering a trade. That'll happen. Now, on Todd's side, right now just 3 basic planes. He is not a monocolored deck.
He is definitely more white than green, but yeah.
And both players with some mana woes. Todd makes a Knight and passes. No other play, no 4th land drop. But last turn, Richard, no 3rd land drop. So both players are kind of waiting to get something going. We'll see who can do it.
Once Nixon gets a 3rd land online, his deck's very capable of emptying its hand. Though Stevens getting stuck on 3, no second History of Benalia, that is a big miss. Here it is, though, finally.
Yeah, Lightning Strike shot down the Knight token, and Todd going to start again, making a Knight. It is all burn on Nixon's side, and I mean all burn. We see Lightning Strikes, multiple Wizard's Lightnings. He'll make a Goblin Banneret again.
Not a Goblin Wizard of note.
Boros don't employ wizards.
No magics in this guild.
There's knights, soldiers, those sorts of things. Todd passes again. His deck's not doing much of anything either. And now a 3rd land for Nixon. We'll see just how much that matters.
Right.
Yeah, 3 wizards. Is that 3 Wizards Lightnings we're seeing up front?
At least 2. There's definitely a risk factor in the mix as well. 3 mana spells are... This deck does not want to draw too many of those. If you draw the Wizard's Lightning, you really want to draw a Get You Lava Runner.
Yeah, I mean, if you can make it a 1-mana spell, it's great. And after drawing that 3rd land, Nixon just passes. So we might be seeing a fistful of burn.
Yeah, plan seems to be to start either going Lightning upstairs or Lightning down these blockers.
Yeah. History of Benalia was used to give creatures +4/+3. Then they convoked out our Loxodon. I don't know that they attacked first. I don't think they did. We'll check.
Yeah, Stevens wanted to make sure that he got this Convoke in. He knew he was playing into Lightning Strike, Wizard's Lightning mana. If you attack, very likely that's what Nixon's plan is. You just pass with 3 mana up. The Loxodon costs 5 and has to Convoke, so he needed all of his resources to make that happen.
They did not attack, so both players it's 18, and now Todd takes the hit off the Banneret. He'll drop to 18 as well.
And 4/4 is quite good in the matchup, so getting that online is just fine. Nixon, once again, resigning himself to sit back on some burn spells.
No block there by Todd, a 1/1 swinging into a 4/4. Are we just thinking Pump Shock? Is there a specific thing he's playing around?
It's very likely that Nixon's hand is full up on Wizard's Lightnings and Lightning Strikes. Wants to maintain the 4/4 and really start beating down in the other direction. He doesn't have very many resources.
Todd swings for 7. Wizard's Lightning takes care of the Knight token. We go back to Nixon. Todd now has a full grip he hasn't been able to cast. Nixon will add a Viashino Pyromancer. But despite all these uncastables, Todd's well in the game.
Yeah, I mean, just the way that the cards line up, History of Benalia being worth 2 2/2s, that's just 2 cards in Nixon's deck.
So Todd's hand 3 copies
Got a bunch
of our Conclave Tribunal.
Yeah, that's the only castable spell, but he has to tap his 4/4 to cast it, which is really awkward. It also has very bad targets.
Yeah. I mean, once Nixon draws a 4th land, that Goblin actually threatens a trade with the Loxodon.
Right.
That's it. If he swings the Loxodon, the Goblin will start mentoring the Pyromancer. He's in a rough spot.
Yeah, this stuff's all pretty gross for Stevens.
I mean, is it, strangely enough, maybe, I don't even know, tribunaling one of these creatures is his best line? It's hard to, that's really hard to do with a straight face.
He's losing the race if he attacks. He does not guarantee the ability to block if that's what he tries.
Yeah, so maybe just making it a mana. He'll leave it back to block, and now Nixon sends a shock upstairs to put Todd to 13.
That's going to be the play pattern for this build of mono red aggro in a lot of spots. It wants to get an empty hand so it can just Flame of Keld at the ready.
Yeah, Todd discarding to hand size. It's going to be a copy of Amara. Now, fortunately for Todd, his mono red, well, nearly mono red teammate Collins Mullen picks up a win game 1 over Ben Stewart. Goblin Chain Whirler from Nixon. He draws that 4th land. It'll deal 1 to the Loxodon. And now 3 more from Wizards Lightning, and the creatures are unlocked. 3 damage comes in, and Todd drops to 7.
And now Stevens won't have the option to try to convoke a spell. He needs a land here.
It's the 4th Conclave Tribunal. And Todd picks up the cards.
Yeah, really awkward start to that game.
Wow.
Stevens' draw never really shaped up, and Nixon's deck kind of just did enough.
And that's just one of the ones I think you have to just chuckle at and hope the next one works. I mean, to draw all 4 of the Tribunals there is, not what you're looking for.
The deck has a good mix of things that are uncastable in the situation. No 4th land, though. That is a pretty big bummer.
So let's look over the sideboards. It's a green-white deck. You expect Todd Stevens to have some cards that are going to be good against mono-red.
Right, that's usually going to be the case. He has 3 Seal Away, 3 Vivian Reed, 2 Dawn of Hope, 2 Night of Autumn, 2 Cleansing Nova, 2 Lyra Dawnbringer, and a Settled Wreckage. So yeah, just like you said, there's a lot to like here. The 3 Seal Away to slow down the initial assault. The 2 Lyra Dawnbringer as this huge life-linking blocker, or really even an attacker once it's online. And the 2 Night of Autumn. You can use these as the life-gaining mode, or even just using it to destroy a Flame of Keld after Nixon has discarded his hand in the first chapter there. That can be pretty powerful. Dawn of Hope is fine. A little slow, but fine.
Yeah, so Night of Autumn, because it has that life gain mode on it, do you like it here, or?
Love it.
Okay, love it. Yeah, we like Lyra. Are you going to go as far to play Settle the Wreckage?
It's fine. This is not a Frenzy build, so the extra lands won't benefit Nixon too much.
Well, oddly, it's a Frenzy out of the sideboard build, which Todd knows.
Oh, it's face up. Yeah, that's scary then. I think Settle is pretty medium. Yeah. Not as good as the other things he's bringing in for sure.
Now, Nixon's side, this list is very interesting because a lot of these cards in the sideboards, I'm looking at these 3 Phoenix and 2 Experimental Frenzy, are cards that every other red player has had in the main deck. So he can kind of switch his configuration to a different type of game 1, or he can board in some of these other effects.
Yeah, some of these effects, you saw he connected with Goblin Banneret a couple times, though in general these cheap creatures are going to have a tough time attacking through the Celestia Tokens deck. So for his sideboard, he wants to have answers to Lyra Dawnbringer for sure. Those 2 Fight with Fires, those are quite powerful. Fiery Cannonade is relatively strong in the match. If you get that on the right turn anyway, clearing up things like the History of Benalia, loose life-linking tokens can be a big deal. In general, I think Experimental Frenzy is maybe just the best red card in Standard.
Yeah, I mean, it's been great. So, Fiery Cannonade, I agree here. I like your point where the Bannerets don't look particularly good. How about Rekindling Phoenix? Greenway's got a lot going on, but no flyers.
Yeah, flies over the top, and especially if you're going to be playing the Fiery Cannonades, having a creature that doesn't die to them, that is a pretty big deal.
Todd will be on the play for Game 2. We have our 3rd Game 1 report in. Tyler Lutes, that 4-color Loam deck, does take Game 1 over Eldrazi Post.
Yeah, his configuration, just being able to wasteland so much, seems to be backbreaking for Jody Keith's deck. You know, we saw an earlier game in the tournament where Jody played against a Grixis Delver deck in the hands of Clay Spicklemeyer, where Clay fired off 3 wastelands and it wasn't enough, but a big element to that was that Mazavith is really good against Grixis Delver. It's way less effective against 4-color Loam.
Yeah, it does basically nothing, and then eventually it doesn't even stop at 3 wastelands either.
Right. Life from the Loam means there's a bunch of wastelanding happening.
So, Todd, it feels like if that one's going to go pretty heavily in the favor of the Loam deck, is going to hope for a comeback here.
Yes.
Now, if you haven't checked out over on this channel, outside of our opens, we've added some new content. It's the Twitch, on twitch.tv, it is the Versus Live series. Every Tuesday and Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern, it's some of the top pros here on the tour playing the top matchups of different formats and discussing their plays. We've seen that over on Starseed Games. You may have seen those videos on our premium side, and now you can follow them live and comment in on the players as it happens. Right here, twitch.tv, SCG Tour.
Yeah, it's been really awesome to watch these programs leading up to the first week in New Standard here. You get to not only watch the Versus series as you have in the past with new decks, new cards in action, but you actually just get to ask questions as it happens, which is a really awesome experience.
Yeah, I think that's something that we were unable to do with the previous videos, that Versus Live really has made it pretty neat.
Yep. Getting minds like Todd Stevens here in the top 8 of the Week 1 Open with the new format. Of course, Brad Nelson, Ross Merriam, Todd Anderson, the whole crew.
Reports from across the field. In the match behind the players over on the right, John Rossum was hoping for that rematch, but on his side, unable to convert. Their team currently down a match in Standard, hoping that Kazu Negri and Dylan Donegan can send them on to the semifinals.
Yeah, his deck is definitely liable to be run over.
And now Todd, a mulligan to 6 here, seeing if he can find something. He hasn't had some playable hands yet. This one's got a Sun Petal Grove, so he has colors set up. Now deciding if it has enough other things for him to keep it.
And he was off green, and he couldn't cast a Mara in Game 1, though more than that, he was off a 4th mana source.
I believe Sun Petal Grove was the only land in the holdings, and Todd going to drop to 5 cards.
And the deck, if you count Flower, which I think is totally reasonable, has access to 22 lands plus the 4 flowers, so 26 looks at mana sources, which is kind of a lot to look at. So really unfortunate to be mulliganing. At least he's on the play against the red deck, but it's going to be a tough fight here.
Yeah, looking for a hand that does something. I think he's turning to Collins, and he's thinking about throwing down back for 4.
I think it's 5 spells. One of them looks to be a flower.
Okay, but he's on the play. I mean, if there's no lands, you just can't keep it.
I mean, if you're going to miss a land drop eventually, does it matter if you do it on turn 1 or turn 2?
For Todd's deck, I guess not really. I mean, there's like if you just don't think the hand can win, maybe there's some 4s that can win. Yeah, it looks like he's keeping on 5.
If the hand has like history, something like that, I think it's totally reasonable to keep a just turn 1 go. It's just like being on the draw suddenly.
Yeah, and that's what he did. He just passed the turn. He did scry a land to the top, so it's Temple Garden. And he'll cast Flower. So here's 2 lands. Did lose the initiative, but not a big punish for that.
I think a lot of players would look at this hand and be very inclined to mulligan, and I think that the keep is very correct.
Yeah. We'll see what the follow-up is. I think, for me, the 2 copies of Flower.
Second Flower. So, the hand technically has lands if you hit the first one.
Viashino Pyromancer deals 2 to Todd. Now the question is going to be, with the lands, are the spells good enough?
Right.
And we'll see. Thorn Lieutenant. So
that's a start.
Yeah, I don't mind that.
Great blocker for the Pyromancer. Even if Nixon has the answer, it places itself with a token to block.
Yeah. Here's a 3rd mountain. I mean, there are some issues, right? If Nixon attacks, Todd has to could be facing a Chain Whirler follow-up.
Right. It can get bad, but it's not like it's better on 4.
Yeah, Lava Coil in Richard's hand. However, that would give Todd the 1/1, and the 1/1 trades with the Pyromancer.
Right.
And looks like Nixon's going to go ahead and accept that 2 for 1. Here is the elf token after he removes the creature and passes.
Hey, his deck's kind of priced into it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he can hope to find a Chain Whirler to clean this up, and then he gains the card back.
Right. So if that's the plan, you kind of have to hope that Stevens adds nothing additional to the battlefield in the interim.
And how about this? History of Benalia from Todd Stevens. On a shock takes care of the knight. Todd is slowly getting those cards back.
Yeah, he's doing all right. Well, he wanted to fade this.
Yeah, Chain Whirler clears away the token, and Pyromancer swings in. Todd to 13. Draws, gets another knight. Now, he does have that 4th land, but it's Flower, so he'll have to pay a mana for it.
Means he won't be able to cast that Shalai this turn.
Right, casts Flower.
Potentially set up for turn 5 Tristani, which represents a lot of blocking bodies.
Okay, here's land 4. Gets a forest that Tristani's available.
The the following turn, his plan, if he can do it, involves just tossing the knight in front of the Pyromancer, though very likely that Nixon just has a removal spell for the knight. And that's why, yeah, he's using it to convoke. I like that a lot because he's very unlikely to get that block.
Yeah, Conclave Tribunal is going to take care of the Chain Whirler. And with this Knight token in play, 4 lands, you know, Todd's hand being Shalai, Tristani, he is back in this. Taking 2. 11's a concern, but got a lot of game to play.
Yep. It's like Lava Coil, Flamekeld, one other in Nixon's hand. He's thinking about whether he wants to fire off Lava Coil and the Flamekeld. It looks like he likes his third card enough. I want to say it's a copy of Fiery Cannonade, which theoretically could be pretty effective on this turn.
So Flame of Keld, that was what we were talking about in Nixon's hand. Got to be careful with how you time this one. Todd's side, Arch of Orazka will make Shalai. That means I think Richard's going to be rewarded for holding on to this Lava Coil.
Oh yeah, much better to use this on the Shalai than the Knight token.
There you go, Lava Coil exiles away the Angel. 2 cards remaining in Richard's hand. It's Cannonade. Yeah, I think you're right, Cannonade, Flame of Keld. Question is whether or not you want to just Flame of Keld right now or whether you're willing to wait a turn thinking you'll get value off Cannonade.
I think after making this attack, it's pretty reasonable to just play Flame of Keld.
Yeah, Todd has 1 card left in hand. If you're waiting for Cannonade to be good, I think it's just not going to happen.
Right.
And that's okay.
And also a life total at 11. And with Todd in a mulligan to 5, if he has more cards in hand, or situations where he skipped passing a spell, you might think it's some kind of enchantment destruction. The way it goes right now, I like this. Nixon lands on the Flame of Keld because he's trying to press his advantage.
Yeah, I mean, the worry is that if you're waiting for Cannonade, what happens if Todd just draws Lyra? Then you look really silly for not playing Flame of Keld.
Right.
Tristani, though, talking just about a good card, going to make 2 lifelink, 2 creatures, and pump the team, swings in for 3, Richard down to 13.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have the Cannonade to deal with these 2 lifelinking tokens, but at least he gets 2 more cards here off the Flame.
That is true, and his cards.
One's a mountain.
Yeah, and those, you're right, those 1/1s do have lifelink. That is huge. Todd gaining the city's blessing as well. If he can't remove the lifelinkers, he has to get to Lava Runner. It's another Viashino Pyromancer. Todd looks to have pulled ahead now.
Yeah, just 4 lifelinking power. That swings the advantage a long way in favor of a damage race.
That third turn on Flame of Keld, the worry from Todd's side, all of Nixon's spells dealing 2 more. Nixon didn't really draw the correct spells to capitalize on that.
Yeah, that's really the thing about the Flame of Keld is it's just 2 extra looks.
Yeah, it's some pretty high variance, isn't it?
Right.
Here's a swing, a 3/3 Vigilance, and 4 power worth of lifelink. And on the red side, as much as you hit it, you just have to remove the lifelink.
He's giving some thought to what exactly he'll be able to do on the 3rd chapter of the Flame of Keld. His cards are worth more damage, so there's a lot of blockers. If he draws something that just answers Tristani, though, gets to shove with his creatures, then the lifelinking creatures are smaller going forward. They're less of a concern.
Yeah. On Todd's side, his teammate Collins Mullen, 2-0, has finished the modern match, defeating Ben Stewart. And Nixon's going to take the entire hit, which means Todd goes up to 13. Nixon actually going to drop to 6.
Yeah, he's trying to get lucky with the Flame of Keld, which I do like a lot.
Another mountain was the draw. I don't think that's going to do it.
No, but I think he has mountain, 2nd Pyromancer, which is just not enough damage.
He can chump block for a bit, but these lifelink tokens are going to be a problem. Arch of Orazka is being tapped starting this turn for Todd Stevens. He has turned the corner.
He's in a spot where some blocks next turn and drawing Experimental Frenzy could still win it for him.
And I like this play. A full swing. He's dead, but Todd doesn't have to know that. And some other great news for Todd. Jody Keith tying things up over in Legacy. Block of the Knight token on the Lava Runner. No block with Tristani. Remember, that's a hit of 4 off the Pyromancer. We are on a Flame of Keld turn.
Yeah, Stevens doesn't have a reason to put his Tristani into jeopardy here. Nixon largely just waiting on this to try to sell something. Maybe a conversation actually about whether Stevens wants to block with the Tristani or not. And he actually does offer up that second block. All right, yeah, locks it in. So the Pyromancer gets to trade with the Tristani. And yeah, that block makes sense. Todd does. He is a little bit scared because of the 3-card hand, though he doesn't know that Nixon just has 2 lands after this. So getting that Tristani off the table, pretty advantageous for Nixon.
Yeah, and I think what Todd banked on is that he has Archvarazka active, so he can win from here.
Yep. He has some draws that break it open pretty effectively as well. There's one of them, March of the Multitudes. It's going to give a bunch more life-flicking tokens.
Yeah. I mean, he might know attack with these tokens, and if that's true, then Nixon's just got to say, oh, no.
Right. It's like Thorn Lieutenant, the other card picked up. It's totally reasonable. It doesn't really make a huge difference to cast this or not because of the Convoke, so it technically only costs 1 mana, and that's also a pretty strong body. No real cost to committing that. It looks like 2 lands, and is it Wizard's Lightning in hand? Oh, it's a Lightning Strike. Yeah, same kind of effect there, but not enough in Nixon's hand right now.
And we do have to make a correction here. We previously reported that Jody Keith had forced Game 3. That was incorrect. Tyler Lutes on 4-color Loam actually took the second game. So it is 2-0 on that side, meaning this is the deciding match.
Yeah, and it looks like Stevens is about to even the matchup.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of Aaron Bariches on the board right now. And remember, those have lifelink, meaning that's good.
They're just lethal.
Yeah,
Nixon's on 6.
If cannonade or bust, and I don't see a cannonade.
I see one in the graveyard.
Okay, that is you got me there.
I don't know how different things could have been if Nixon waited on the Flame of Keld and cast that Colonnade. He could have swept up the tokens that Tristani made right away, but then he's kind of under more pressure from the Night token, the Tristani attacking, and it could have been different, but I don't know how much different. So Stevens does not shove with Lieutenant. So here's a block, and it looks like only 5 tokens getting through, but Stevens does gain 6 life. This one going to be out of reach.
All right, yeah, Nixon going down to 1. Todd up to 15, though, and there's not really a draw that's going to save him here. Looks like we... Remember, this was a hand where Todd was on a mull to 5, and his first play of the game was go.
Yep.
And you mentioned...
Love that keep.
What a veteran play. Yeah, to keep 0 lands on the play... Most people you'll hear it often quoted, I think, by people saying that is never correct. Well, if that's your thought, this is, never just happened.
Right. Most cases have a sometimes. And yeah, that was it right there. He kept some flowers in hand, found that Temple Garden for his second turn of the game, was able to set up his mana, and was able to stop the early offense from Nixon. History of Benalia playing a huge role there. Tristani kind of cleaning things up, and then March of the Multitudes ended up sealing the game. And we're doing deciding Game 3 here.
And what a turnaround for Todd Stevens. That was a tough keep, but now he gets a third one. And it's all hands on deck. You see consulting with Collins, Mullen, Jody Keith there as well. Some updates from our other matches as they have all finished. Our 1 seed, Spickelmeyer, Ellenbogen, and McVitie, they are victorious. They move on to the semifinals. They will play the winner of this last game.
All right.
Our number 2 seed, the team of Logan, Parson, and Shupman, they defeat John Rossum's team for the second time this tournament. It was the rematch that Rossum wanted, and again, they do fall short. So Logan, Parson, and Shupman move on to the semis. We also have, and this one I think both of us thought was pretty unexpected, the team of Willie, Parson, and Sod. The 6 seed actually move on. They were playing against Gebbing, Kerbal, and Palmer. That team was the all-in team, Elves, Prison. The all-in actually didn't work here. They fall
Wow.
Yeah.
Upset on seed, and those matchups, they looked good across the board for the 3 seed there.
Yeah, I was surprised on that one, to be sure.
Especially just to have that be your only breaking of seed.
Yeah.
That's something.
Yeah, in these team tournaments, seeding matters a ton.
Oh, yeah, just 3 matches on the play. Sign me up.
Yeah, so what that means, the team moving on there, we haven't seen too much of them. That was the team of Willie, Parson, and Sod. That was Death and Taxes, Tron, and Mono Red moving on to the semis.
Yeah, we haven't seen Death and Taxes in any of our camera matches so far this weekend. That is the legacy deck that won the Team Pro Tour.
This team was the one of the last 2 teams to go undefeated back in round 8 yesterday when it was Spickelmeyer, Ellenbogen, and Sod, or still around Ellenbogen and McVitie. They played against this other team to make 9-0. It could actually set up a rematch of that in the finals. Both teams have moved on to the semis.
Yeah, that's huge. And it looks like there were 2 Death and Taxes players on day 2. So it's certainly performing.
It's one of those decks, it's always just good enough.
Right. You usually have a better idea of what is going on than your opponent when you play a deck like Death and Taxes.
Well, you have
if you're playing
it well,
exactly. You need to be able to navigate those vial tricks very effectively, and they lead to some really weird stacks.
Yeah. Both these teams, so the winner, I said, sets up a rematch with the 1 seed. Both these teams have lost to that team already. 1 seed did have a pretty good run there to 12-0.
Right. You ended up making it a 13-2, but make that 14-2 now, and they're on the play for the rest of the top 8.
Jody Keith pulls a chair around. Todd will have a teammate on both sides here for game number 3.
Though this is scary. Richard Nixon on the play with the mono red deck in the deciding game 3.
All right. Nixon's going to be on the play. As you mentioned, checking here with teammate Ben Stewart. Looks like they're both fine with it. Not approval on Collins' side as well. We're going to see some 7s.
It looks like there might be a deliberation about which 1-drop to lead with. Or I guess none.
Mountain.
I've been talking about hands. I don't know. Mountain's a good start.
Flower here from Todd Stevens. And goes get his basic set up with the planes.
So this looks like the first game where Stevens will be really capable of casting his spells.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Stevens is actually going to get to have a normal game with his deck here.
Right.
Viashino Pyromancer for Nixon. 2-1 here, knocks Todd to 18. We go back over to Stevens, see if we can produce something. I think ideally a Thorn Lieutenant, something that cleanly answers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, his deck doesn't do too much on turn 2. Lieutenant would have been nice. Amara would have been solid.
Tapped Temple Guard, and he says go and drops to 16. Looks like we have some copies, I think, of History of Benalia.
Yeah, I want to say 2 of them. Ooh, and Nixon passing on 3.
Yeah. Well, so here comes Stevens' deck. History's going to make the first night. A pass on 3, well, not a complete pass. Here's a risk factor from Nixon.
Yeah, that's about the best thing that you could have there. Stevens pretty easily chooses to take 4.
I don't really want to give my opponent 3 cards there.
Yeah, his deck has a number of ways to gain life, plenty of life-linking token generators, so that first one's free-ish.
Fight with fire on the token and a swing in. That is a very aggressive line here for Nixon.
Yeah, likely made in terms of mana efficiency, though. His hand might just be full up on 3 mana sorts of effects.
Another potential blocker for Todd is the Knight token. He's got another History of Benalia, picked up Thorn Lieutenant that turn as well. Some good choices here for Stevens.
History makes more sense unless he has a second spell to pair with the Thorn Lieutenant.
So 2 different lines. Collins wanted History of Benalia, but Jody wanted something far more aggressive. He wants Thorn Lieutenant, Sapperling Migration, and I think Jody pointed to Conclave Tribunal as well. That might be a couple too many cards.
Tribunal's aggressive. You have so many blockers for the Pyromancer. You want to save that for some kind of enchantment, be it Flame of Cal, be it Experimental Frenzy.
I will confirm. None of these creatures can attack. They all hit the board this turn. 10 on Todd's side, 20 on Richard's side.
And Nixon's got to figure out a way to close this out. He has access to another risk factor by virtue of jump start.
Lava Coil takes care of Thorn Lieutenant. Todd's just fine with that. Still gets his token.
Well, this feels like Nixon might have a fiery cannonade.
Swing with the Pyromancer. And on Nixon's side, he somewhat needs to, I think what Todd may be setting up for is a March of the Multitudes, which, I mean, you can't let one of those happen.
Well, if you have a fiery cannonade, that's fine.
Yeah.
He might have Tristani, though, which would be a little more scary.
Well, the hard thing is if Todd just makes another History Benalia, yeah, he fires off, uses Cannonade right now. That was my concern here, was that you'd use it before a March. Either way, here's Lyra Dawnbringer. We've already seen one fight with fire get cast. Does he have another?
With how aggressively he cast it, it wouldn't surprise me to see another. But if he doesn't have it, he's in all kinds of trouble.
And he does. Here we fight with fire. One card left. Not going to play that. I think he wants to risk factor it.
Yeah, it's a mountain, but that means it's a risk factor.
6th land for Todd will make another History of Benalia. And is there more? No, there's not. Back to Nixon we go.
I think Tribunal and one other in the leftovers.
And Nixon, he's got a Pyromancer, he's got a land, which is a risk factor. He's just kind of deciding if there's any reason to order it one way versus the other.
Yeah, it seems to be a conversation over whether to start with the risk factor.
And he will.
From 10... So Nixon kind of showed the Pyromancer. I don't know if Steven saw it. If you know it's Viashino Pyromancer, going to 6 and going to 4, there's not a ton that kills you from 4. But if you're concerned about it being a 3 damage spell, then taking 4 is actually a pretty big deal.
Yeah. And there's still the concern. Todd lets him draw 3 cards. We're going to see the Pyromancer anyway. Todd down to 8.
Yeah, because it's Pyromancer, there's not that many sets of just one card that clean up from there. If it was Lightning Strike and the Lightning Strike, that's just lethal. If you know about Pyromancer, I'd be more inclined to take 4, as scary as it is.
Yeah. Another night from Todd. And immediately swing and a March of the Multitudes. Actually, no swing. Just the lifelinks. Challenging Nixon. Oh, wow. Okay, he taps them all to convoke the Venerated Loxodon.
If he gets a turn of untapping and attacking with these, that should seal the game up, but we'll find out.
Yeah, this is a pretty big check for Fiery Cannonade.
Right, only one more copy in the deck.
And does Richard have it, yeah.
He has 2 cards left over or just 1 from here?
Well, he's going to draw.
Right, but if he's drawing up to 2 or 3 is a big difference.
Drawing up to 3.
Okay. I mean, there's certainly 3 card configurations that are lethal from here. I think Shock, Flamekill, that's a tough starting point. And once these Life Flickers connect, I don't know if he can make enough. And it's also just lethal in 2.
Yeah. Yeah, it is 10 power in addition to 10 points of lifelink.
Yeah.
Yeah, Flamekill, Shock, and a 3rd.
It looks like Nixon's going to be coming up short.
Shocks Stevens to 6. Flame of Keld discards Flame of Keld. Yeah, okay, so he's going to get to draw 2. What would those 2 have to be, Ryan?
Probably has to start with Fiery Cannonade because he can't just lethal Stevens from this position.
Okay. Well, hold on. History of Benalia means...
If Nixon gets to block, it's still 18.
Okay, it's not lethal.
If Stevens combines Conclave Tribunal with that, then it's lethal.
Yeah, that card must not be Tribunal. I think earlier we were looking at that Venerated Loxodon. So yeah, here's a swing. It's for 22, so Nixon forced into a chump block. Yeah, takes 18. Nixon down to 2. Stevens up to 16.
Yeah, from this position, it has to start with Fiery Cannonade and likely something to finish off the Loxodon. Stevens has some spell. Might be a second Loxodon. Could gas up his tokens a little bit.
Yeah, and I like that. It protects them from a Cannonade.
Yeah, that might have sealed things up.
And now some large creatures. Nixon draws a card. Now he'll get 2 more. 18 points of burn. I don't think so.
One's a mountain, so that's a non-starter in this equation. think a risk factor?
Okay.
I'll take 4. Or draw 3 cards. Say whatever you want.
Todd, all right, we're down to 14. We don't play Fog in red, I don't think.
I think
Pass.
Wizard's Lightning is the one left over.
Like he's holding up one card, but what? Yeah, he wants Todd to do it. He wants to see it walked in, and that'll happen. Todd turns him sideways. Upstairs, not going to be enough with Wizard's Lightning. Nixon gets him close, but to not get the job done. And a comeback win here for Todd Stevens with both sideboarded games sends them on to the semifinals.
To be clear, Nixon resigned there. He Wizard's Lightning himself. Okay, he Wizard's Lightning himself.